Hello and welcome everybody. This is Soul Awakening South Africa and I'm Joy Truscott. My mission is to bring wisdom through into the Southern Hemisphere, gathering up the wisdom of the people who are present on my continent, which is South Africa. And I love to connect with people who have a great sense of awareness and awakening to what really needs to be shown and played out in the world today. And I would love to welcome a very, very special person, Anna Breytenbach, who is the most incredible, enlightened being who is able to communicate with animals. For those of you who know her work, you will understand why it is a great privilege for me to be welcoming Anna today. So thank you, Anna, for making this time and for being here with me.
Thank you, Joy. Great to be here.
Anna, one of the things I would like to ask you is, you know, when we are little and we're growing up and we're becoming all that we think we should be in life, we have so many ways of being shut down or have imprints come into us that don't always agree with who we really are. So many people in the world today are experiencing this sense of disconnect with who they really are and who they have been told they need to be. When I worked with children many years ago, I always found that there was a uniqueness in children, a knowing of who they really were. And I would like to know if you had a sense of who you really were from the very beginning and also an awareness of your skills, and perhaps you would give us a glimpse into who Anna was when she was a little girl.
Well, as a little girl, I had a very ordinary suburban upbringing. I had no idea about animal communication. I had no unusual nature experiences or time out in nature. Only ever had one family dog as a pet. So there's nothing at all noteworthy or remarkable about my childhood. Nothing at all. That is anything to do with what I'm doing now. But it was when I was close to the age of 30 that this began to come to my awareness through direct experience. The rest of my life until that point had been very much left brain and logical and academic studies, followed by a corporate career, and then working in IT, which is very left brain and very logical. So a well-developed mind, and I didn't have a place for understanding more of the right brain kinds of activities. I didn't know about things like intuition. But I was living in the USA for a while, and I was out at a tracking club following footprints in the sand and in the mud of various animals that I knew nothing about. I didn't know anything about North American species because I grew up in my native South Africa. And because I didn't have learned knowledge about the animals or the footprints I was seeing, my left brain, logical mind couldn't figure it out or analyze it or solve the puzzle in the sand. And when I was mentored to just quietly sit and be with the animal tracks, rather than having the teacher just give me the answer, for example, when I was just mentored to sit and be or to tune in with the tracks quietly, I began to get sometimes mental images or sometimes just a sudden knowing or a sudden sense about what kind of animal had made that particular footprint. And when I would describe the slightly scraggly, grey, pointy face to the instructor, and he would say, well, yes, that is a coyote's tracks. And I'd say, well, what's a coyote? I'd never heard of a coyote before. I only knew about jackals from Africa. So these things began to happen spontaneously out in nature, but when I was already very much an adult, and it's not that anything special happened to make me go look for it. It began happening when my logical, cognitive mind was quiet enough and couldn't figure things out. And that allowed perhaps more holistic and more intuitive and certainly a deeper side of my knowing to step to the foreground. And that's how intuition works.
I think what you've just said is very valid, and it speaks a lot about the way children are schooled into who they really are, who they are to become, is by this enormous amount of cognitive input that really structures the way they believe they should be thinking and feeling about themselves. Whereas you didn't have those early constructs coming in, and perhaps that was what helped you tune in so much more magnificently. It's just a wonderful story of tuning in. What it interests me is that often when we get perceptions or we get an awareness and we have a sense of some picture, it's so easy for us to just go in and with the analytic mind and just cut that off and just say, oh, I'm just imagining it, or oh, it can't be real. How did you not cut that piece off? How did you continue to stay with it? Because I think that is a true struggle with people who are trying to connect in with the intuitive guide itself, is the struggle of this, the analytic one coming in and cutting us off and shutting us down. How did you stay true to what you were thinking, seeing, perceiving, and how did you honor that, Anna?
It's not like self-doubt or thinking ever goes completely quiet. I think one would have to be somewhat of an enlightened being or some meditation master perhaps to attain that kind of inner and mental quietude. So even when I'm now 14 years later in a consultation with an animal or animals and sensing intuitively what's going on for them, my mind is concurrently running some alternative or more logical or more rational suggestions by me. So there's two ways to deal with that. And the one is to notice the difference in the quality in the inner realms, to track inside oneself, to notice the difference in the quality of those kinds of commentaries that are happening internally. And ironically, the stuff that's coming from one's own mind or past experience or projections tends to be louder on the inner landscape and to carry a bigger stick. And the stuff that is the most true information coming from the other, the stuff that I'm receiving telepathically or intuitively, is quieter and a lot more subtle. I suppose our intuition isn't called the small inner voice for nothing. But just by knowing that distinction, I can then pay attention more to the subtle things instead of to the louder things that are there in the landscape. And in a more personal sense in the way as well, in the early days, I really didn't know if it was real or not, despite it happening to me. There was not much agreement for it or support for it in the world of my colleagues or friends or family at all. So there was very rich territory for self-doubt to kick in. And I would find the most amazing, convoluted arguments to explain why something very specific I got from an animal might be just lucky guesswork if all other reasonable explanations failed. When I studied this whole field further through the Assisi International Animal Institute based out of California, we had to do many, many case studies with animals we didn't know and ask them questions that some human could then corroborate afterwards. And it was those case studies, double-blind case studies, if you will, that again and again proved to me, finally, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that this was real. But that was probably about a year or two's journey for me to have the inner skeptic finally calmed. And there is the matter of other egoic issues as well. Like even when I do know for sure that something is definitely coming from an animal, there may be issues with me saying that animal's truth or passing the message on to humans. Am I going to look like a fool? Or what am I going to do when I'm going to be the messenger that's going to get shot because the humans really don't want to hear or know about the animal's trouble or grief or despair, or they don't want to do anything to change the environment for the better or the situation for the better for the animal? And ultimately, as one of my colleagues says, it's not our message to edit. And I really love that. In my integrity, it's not my message to edit. If I am hearing and knowing things about the animals, and it's my duty to pass it on unedited, particularly not to edit it for reasons of me, worrying about looking like a fool or my lack of confidence. I just need to pass it on as I get it. And it's been quite a journey of that paradoxical mixture between care and compassion and non-attachment. And to lastly, another thing to notice too is to be very aware within myself what is raw data coming from the animal, like their emotion, versus what might in turn be my emotional reaction to what the animal's going through. So if an animal is very happy or very sad, I might in turn be delighted that they're happy or absolutely distressed that they're sad. And if I'm not clear what is my amplification or what is my addition to the message, then I can run the risk of going off center from their truth and making it more or less than it really is. So if anything, the animals and nature that I connect with have been the biggest spiritual teachers, because they've put me on a path of continual personal work and personal spiritual work to keep on clearing the channel that I am. And it's a constant work in progress to keep on clearing the channel.
It's wonderful, and the work that you put into how to stay connected and stay profound with what it is that you're delivering, it does demand a great deal of perhaps not sacrifice, but certainly a level of dedication. And is there a practice that you do, Anna, that it might be helpful for others who are also seeking to align themselves with the more truth that is held within nature? Is there a way that you could maybe suggest that others begin their work if they are seeking to do something similar to you?
Really, the best way to connect with nature and to connect with intuition and our own inner intuitive nature is to get out into nature. And this needn't be a huge hike or an expedition. In fact, preferably not, because those are all very goal-orientated usually. I'm talking about stepping across the threshold of your back door or your front door and spending 20 minutes or half an hour in your own garden or any space you have. If you live in a city, walk down to the park, sit with your back against a tree, drop all the smartphones and the thinking and even the listening, and quieting the mind. Any practice at all, in fact, that will quiet the mind is very, very helpful. Because when the thinking mind has gone quiet, there's space for our intuition to speak to us and for others to speak to us through our intuitive antenna. So really 20 minutes, half an hour, preferably every day, without an agenda, without trying to solve something or even have an experience out in nature. Get out there, become very aware on a 5 sensory level first. Become aware on a 5 sensory level. Stretch your hearing as far into the distance as you can. And notice the subtle smells and sounds that are coming into your awareness. Feel the blade of grass under your finger or the pressure of your flesh against the ground that you're sitting on or the tree you're leaning against. And as has been true for all of our human ancestors in the indigenous and original tribe, those people all knew how to connect very well on a 5 sensory level. And that's when the so-called 6th sense in modern times can open up, because we become present to the very intimate and intricate relationships and connections that are happening out there in any natural environment at any moment. Plus, it is a very presencing process, a very presencing practice to go and be somewhere and be still without an agenda, to be fully present to your surroundings, allows us to be fully present to what's being radiated. What's being radiated outwards from every single being that we encounter along the path of an even very ordinary day.
That's perfect, perfect. And I think anyone following that advice might truly start connecting in with their own inner deep compass, their true core awareness. And it is through our 6 senses that we are able to do that. And if you had to say that there was a deep and abiding message that you would wish to send into the world through the work and through the knowing that you have gathered doing what you do, is there a way that, or is there a message that you would love to have broadcast to the world?
Well, I would just invite the world, in the sense of the human aspects of the world, I'd invite the humans to drop their minds and to relate again, to connect and to relate to any non-human, whether it's your potted plant that you're busy watering, or the flower that you love to grow, or the potato that you buy in the grocery store, or your domestic pet, or the bird that flies by when you're driving in your car on the way to work. In any moment of connection, direct relationship is available. And that's what I'd like to broadcast, is just take a moment to greet from a heart center, a silent energetic greeting, to greet and connect with any other non-human. And it's through that we experience what it is to actually be human. And it's that will inform the little decisions we take along the way that affect all the other beings with whom we share this wonderful planet.
Beautiful. Beautifully said, Anna. And I know we've only got this little moment of time, but I so value you giving your time and your loving guidance to this beautiful work that you do with guiding humans and the living organisms of this world, connecting people to connecting the spirits of all living creatures and all beings. I think what you're doing is profound, and it's an absolute pleasure that we've been able to share just this little moment together. And I know that you have many courses, you are writing a book, you are finding ways to really bring your message through to the world. People who want to connect with you, they are able to connect through your website. Are there any other ways, Anna, that they might be able to connect into you through courses that you might just say to us?
Well, the 2015 schedule is currently being finalized with courses in Europe and Australia, possibly New Zealand, and certainly in South Africa as well. And there are many, many communicators around the world who offer wonderful workshops. There are plenty of online resources as well. So if people go to my website, animalspirit.org, and look on the resources page, wherever someone is in the world, wherever they're searching from, they'll be able to find links to self-learning and distance study materials. Because I'm very, very clear and very passionate about the fact that everyone can do this. I'm not born with a special gift at all. I've just paid attention to it and had a certain calling to really enhance this. And what I'm very excited about is everyone stepping up to this. Everyone can, and I really hope that everyone would. So I really encourage people to empower themselves by using the internet to find an animal communicator near themselves, and to use their intuition to feel into which communicator they might seek out as a teacher, and to grow this and be this themselves. That's what excites me.
Perfect. Now, that is the most ideal message to end this beautiful connection. So thank you once again, Anna, for connecting in with me and SoulAwakeningSA. And may we find ways here in the Southern Hemisphere to broadcast this message of connectedness and love, and opening our hearts to one another, so that we might really find that we can make a place in this world that vibrates with love and kindness, care, the sense of the genuine inner spirit. So be blessed, all of you, as you go on and dig into that piece of you that Anna says we all have. So let's find that inner calling, that inner way of communicating. May you be blessed. Thank you for listening, and thank you, Anna. Many blessings.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.